Alright guys, TacticalRab again today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. The first weekend of Major 4 qualifiers is done and dusted, and OpTic Texas, the stars of the show today, demolishing the London Royal Ravens in a record-breaking series we shall dive into. But a demolition job like this certainly shows that with Toronto and FaZe faltering somewhat, they may well be putting themselves in position to be the favourites heading into Major 4 rather soon. Very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I would greatly appreciate it. Firstly, this is the Mutineers saying that, of course, they were in Wisconsin just yesterday for their games against, although one series they played and lost very quickly to the Minnesota Rokkr in Wisconsin for the home series. So they played from Madison College. So I was wondering how their travel day would be affected here, but that, I suppose, was their solution. Also, Karma, he's at it again, with Holly confirming on Twitter earlier today that I believe they're having another child. So, yeah, congratulations to both of them. And it seems Karma's building an absolute derby that's going to take over the league in however long, if hopefully it's still around. So I thought this was really cool. Congratulations to the both of them. But let's dive into this series. So Toronto say it's all about the bounce back. They lost a tough series to Boston to start out their week. Now, to be honest, the two teams they played here, Boston and Surge, two teams that you certainly can lose to, even if you're the reigning champions of the event. Certainly a team you can lose to. The shocking thing to me, though, was the search and destroy of Toronto the last couple of days was nowhere near where they have been before. And I believe even Standy said, or there was some talking points right from the Toronto camp, that Scrappy wasn't taking S&D practice 100% seriously, and that was a bit of a back and forth that Standy had when they were beefing on Twitter a little while ago. And look, we know that Surge have decided, after being the worst search and destroy team in the game earlier in the cycle, to really go in hard on search and destroy, and they were going to get better eventually. But to get better to this extent is very impressive. But Toronto seemed to have fallen off significantly in this mode, and that was the thing. That was the reason why Toronto were the winners of the major. They were good across the board. So far now, though, they've gone Game 5 twice against teams that can take you Game 5, but the teams that win events, they win those Game 5s. Surge won Game 1, they won Game 2. Ultra came back in the series just as they did against Boston, winning the control, winning the game for hardpoint. It felt like, hey, surely this time Ultra will find a way to get the reverse sweep done in 5, but it wasn't to be the case here. Fortress is usually a very good map actually for Surge, but this time wasn't enough. Insight went big towards the end of this one to get the job done. But Game 5, again, a Fortress search and destroy. There was this ridiculous round as well. I mean, Pred, he must be fuming about this. It was Scrappy versus Pred. Scrappy locks in the dead silence, and while he's doing it, hits the hip fire. This happened at the major, right? Pred versus Simp for the loss in that series, and Scrappy gets the dub here. But there was another big 1v1 a couple of rounds later between Insight and Sib, where Insight seemed to get completely joked, and Insight was mind-blown about it, and Sib was obviously pretty happy about it. So maybe that Bell fiber line is good, but you know, maybe not always good enough. So they lose the Game 5 Toronto to go 0-2 on the week, and you know, Surge take them down in 5. Not something I thought I'd be saying. I thought Toronto would win this series in 5, but it was Pred and the Surge guys that did it the other way around this time. And because it's Ramadan at the moment, the Muslim players in the league, you know, it's obviously challenging for them. They've got to manage a lot of things by fasting, and Pred also and Lamar on this team are, you know, going through that at the moment. Obviously, Asim as well at London, so it's always a tricky time. But, you know, so massive credit to these guys being able to perform at this level with what they're currently undertaking. And Pred goes on to say, GG's Toronto, I just can't get away from this hip-fire cheese. So, I mean, crazy stuff, but they did win the series, and that leaves Toronto 0-2. I don't think this is a disaster for Ultra by any means. They went Game 5 in both series, two teams that you certainly can lose to, but, you know, these aren't your FaZes or your Los Angeles Thieves, or even maybe your Subliners. Like, there are other competition, or even OpTic, right? So, you know, losing to these two teams is not what Toronto would have wanted. It does also mean those teams get 10 more points, which, I mean, look, realistically, Vegas's fight for champs is with the Rokkr, but, yeah, it does make that even harder now. And one storyline that I think makes this absolutely fantastic is that it's next weekend, or actually, no, it's the weekend after, on April the 14th. That's when Scrappy and co on Toronto play Vegas. So their games are not exactly easy from here on out. They play Vegas on the final weekends, and look, Toronto, I would expect them to get back to at least, you know, 2-3, potentially 3-2. But that series they play against Vegas could be massive, right? Because if they need a win in that series against Vegas, as Toronto may well do, and Standy versus Scrappy can potentially knock them down to losers, that's a possibility. Now, because their map count so far is good, when they do start winning series, which I imagine they will, they should be okay. But still, a bit of a surprise, right? And good job for Surge, because they got crushed a little bit by the Los Angeles Thieves, but it goes to show that maybe Thieves are just like on a different level here, and they also destroyed London, as did a certain team we're going to discuss here in a second. So Scrappy, Hicksy, not the greatest series from them, 0.86, good damage from Scrappy, but rarely you see him drop into the red zone here, inside of a 1.2, and then Prid and Accuracy, great performance from those on the other side of things, and Surge get the job done in 5. I did not think I'd be saying that a few months ago. So then we get to the OpTic series, and we did thankfully see another Expo control in play here. So this was the series that OpTic and London came up with. Fortress Hardpoint, Hotel Surge Expo control, I was like, and then a Hydro Hardpoint as well. I was like, this is shocked. If it goes 5, maybe London can win, but I was thinking there's no way, looking at this map set, that London are going to win this series. OpTic are just too good at these maps. And I mean, I don't know really why they played them on Fortress Hardpoint. Maybe they thought they had something up their sleeve, but like OpTic are by far the best Fortress team in the game. They were putting teams like Surge, who are great at this map, in the 100-point club, and like their performances on P1 are outrageously good. They just get such a good lead at the start of every game. They were up 77-0, and it soon became 144-6. And you know, even Bose is looking kind of bored. He was like, "Oh my God, these guys are getting absolutely pounded." And you know, it didn't get too much closer than this, to be honest. The game finished up 250-68, which I believe is definitely up there, if not the most dominant hardpoint victory we've seen so far this season. It's certainly very close, if not the absolute #1. And yeah, this may well have been a record-breaking series, because I mean, London, their numbers this weekend, yes, they played Thieves, and we thought, okay, damn, maybe Thieves are seriously good. And now this series is played today, and it's like, well, damn, actually, maybe OpTic are really good as well, or maybe just London are awful, right? Which they clearly are awful compared to this level. I mean, yeah, 250-68, they got almost 100-point clubbed by Thieves, and I think they got 6-0'd in the search by Thieves. Here they won just 2 rounds, and then the control wasn't close either, so they went like 150-500 in their 2 hardpoints over the last couple of days, and they got bopped out of both of these series in about 30 minutes, to be honest. Now, you've got to give credit in a way to OpTic, but surprisingly London went for this, because the last few times they've played this matchup against Boston, they put them in the 100-point club, they played FaZe on it, put them in the 100-point club, and then now have played at London in it, and I think they did the same, maybe not 100-point club, but, you know, to Surge recently. Actually, yeah, so Tim looks at this, and versus Seattle, it was 250-120 at the major. Boston, FaZe, similar story. So it's a pretty unbelievable level they're showing, and I will mention this tweet, of course, from Paul X, and he says, "Damn, baby." Now, in fairness to Paul X, he actually tweeted this out during the series, and it didn't backfire on him. He actually got away with it, because they continue to get fried for the rest of the series. Then we go into the search and destroy. Again, I mean, London just so badly coordinated. OpTic, once they've got, like, OpTic are a momentum team, we know that. If they come out strong on game 1 and win the game 1, there's very few teams that are going to slow down that momentum they have, especially a team like London. They got bowled over here. Huke was making some nice plays. Aces for Huke. I mean, Huke was doing some weird things as well. Just everything was working for Huke. If we go back to the start of this clip here, like, he finds himself in this spot where he just straight up goes for it, and you know, this guy doesn't die, goes for the grenade, somehow blows himself up. I don't know what's going on there, but it doesn't matter at the end of the day. Ravens take a couple of rounds. They were good in search at the start of the year as well, and I feel kind of bad for iLLeY in a way. He comes into what is clearly a dysfunctional team, but fundamentally, I thought iLLeY, an actual potential SMG slayer, would fix their dynamic. But I guess the issues are, you get rid of Paul X, you get rid of some experience, you lose that element really, and Scraps as well, despite being probably the most experienced head on the team outside of maybe a Seam. They've been around a similar time. Scraps may be marginally longer. You know, Scraps has been woeful since they brought iLLeY in. So, you know, I thought on paper it was a sensible idea, because I don't think that they were going to go very far with Paul X, but it doesn't seem like this move has worked well for them, and, you know, they must be mentally checked out, because there's no chance these guys make champs at all, certainly playing like this. And yeah, OpTic on Expo, we saw earlier today, Shotzzy said their Expo control is very good. Turns out it probably is, or they were just playing London. Difficult to say, but it was at least rather entertaining to watch this map, I thought. Certainly compared to the Fortress control that we are used to. So the OpTic guys get the job done. I believe Dashy was potentially at the Hex quarters, because he loves playing out of there. He thinks he fries from there more so than he does from the Envy or now OpTic headquarters, and he might be onto something, because he did drop a 1.8 this series. So I don't know what's going to happen with London. Obviously, a scene, people are saying, you know, free this guy, but you know, a couple of days ago it was free Nasty, right? So this is the thing, London are just a dysfunctional team. Everyone, I'm sure, has some share of the responsibility and the blame, and even Gizmo, who I'm surprised, frankly, didn't get called back up to the team already, but he says, look, listen, I'll play for free, please, bring me back in, I'll try and save you guys. And even this stat I thought was crazy, that London's record with with 0 in is 30 and 34. When he's not been in, 17 and 39. So this includes, I guess, Modern Warfare as well. But, you know, still, right, 0 getting benched. I always thought that was a bit of a strange decision, to be honest. And the numbers maybe clarify that might be the case. And at this point, it's like, what do you do with London? Just run it back with Swanee and Co, the Millennium team from back in the day. You know, at least it would be good vibes and interesting to see, rather than these guys getting slammed week in and week out. But you got to say credit to OpTic for being able to deliver a performance like this, because Thieves set the bar the other day, playing London as they did and smoking them in the DoorDash challenge. Like, OpTic came out and basically did the same thing to them again. So, like, right now with Toronto and FaZe not looking so good as they were but previously, it's really Thieves and also OpTic that are kind of commanding themselves as to be like, look, we are the guys to beat this stage. And I mean, look at the numbers here. Scraps a 0.5, everybody in the red. Dashy with a 1.8. If everyone's got a 1.22 and above, and if Ghosty's got a 1.2 despite dropping 39 kills, like, it's over, man. It's absolutely chalked. Now, obviously, OpTic's schedule gets harder from here. Next weekend, they play Subliners and they play Thieves. That's going to be a banger game. It's actually a bounty game, I'm guessing, here as well. So you can't exactly read into this series from OpTic that they're the best team in the world, hands down, but it's certainly a good set for them, especially given what Thieves are able to do against London and then what they did to Surge, a team that just beat Toronto. And the final series of the day, an expected result in terms of the victor, but not as comfortable as I was expecting this to be, especially given the fact that Rokkr bodied Florida on LAN at their home event just yesterday. FaZe played them today, the Major 2 champions. They win the game 1 kind of comfortably here on the hotel. They thought, okay, fair enough, they're back in the hardpoints. But still, if you look at the way they play their hardpoint, it wasn't like Slasher or Cellium was soaking the hill time. Again, they kind of had Simp doing it again. So I still don't know what's going on here, but it's the thing with FaZe, like, I never expect them to win both hardpoints in a series. I saw a remarkable stat earlier today, actually, that in series where they've lost to Search and Destroy this year, there's something like 2 in 7 series counts. And I guess that's now 3 in 7. But because they were so good in Search, they won a lot of their series winning both Search and Destroys, or at least winning one of them, and then closing out the series. When they lose a Search, of course, if it's game 5 they lose, then they lose the series for sure, but their series record is pretty bad when they lose game 2 Search, effectively, which is understandable given their respawns have been suspect. And Mutineers broke FaZe's undefeated streak on Embassy. It's inevitable, these records get broken, teams hard counter. FaZe almost came back here. They were actually at a 4v3 advantage round 11 after making a 5-2 comeback, but FaZe go down, Florida take the Search and Destroy, and that's when it gets very interesting, right? Because yes, FaZe take the control, but you can't rely on FaZe at all to take 2 hard points in a row. They don't. Mutineers bounce back here. It looked like FaZe were going to take this one early on, but Mutineers created a quite commanding lead, go 2-2. Brack has a great map 4, but in the end, FaZe just too strong in game 5. And the Florida Mutineers go down. A respectable performance from them, a valiant attempt, but FaZe aren't really going to lose 2 searches in a series, but they're not going to win 2 hard points in a series, even against a bad respawn team like Mutineers, that I believe have the lowest respawn win percentage, at least hard point win percentage, I think, in the entire league. But FaZe aren't too much better than them, so definitely FaZe are faltering. They've got problems to solve. Toronto in a similar boat, but other teams, the likes of Thieves and certainly OpTic, based on today's evidence, are coming for that #1 seed going into the Major 4 qualifiers. But very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care, and I'll see you next time.